What's up, guys? This is Brent with Western Equipment. Now let's go ahead and start breaking down where this John Deere 325G sits in the John Deere compact track loader lineup. Now within that lineup, there are going to be two segments. There are going to be large frame machines and small frame machines, and the 325G is going to fall down in that small frame machine category. Now the four units that are in that whole lineup are going to be the John Deere 333G, the 331G, those are going to be your large frame. Then we jump down to your 325G and 317G. So this is going to be the second largest of the units, with having those other two up above it. Now, one thing that makes the 325G interesting is that its peak horsepower is going to be 74. So what that number means is that it is below the 75 horsepower threshold, meaning that this machine does not require DEF, and this is going to be a huge selling point on this machine, sometimes over those larger, just so we have that one less fluid that we have to worry about. Now, let's go ahead and hop in the machine, raise the boom up, and check out the rear of the machine at the engine and service points. All right, so first things first, we are going to lower that lap bar, and then we are going to release our parking brake and our hydraulic brake. And then now what we're gonna do is raise up on our right hand joystick, raise this up. And why we're doing this is because we need to raise the boom all the way up and make sure and lock it out. That way we can take off our side shields on our engine compartment in the back to show how we can do all the necessary service that needs to be done. Now, once we have this all the way raised up, what we're going to do is we are going to pull out on this red lever here, turn that to the inside, let that clip back down, and what this is going to do is set out our lockout pin on the outside of the machine. Then we can simply lower the boom down till it rests on that lockout pin, just like that, and then that is going to keep those booms up and into place where we can safely go into the back and work in that engine compartment. Now, once we have the boom up and out of the way, we can start opening up our engine compartment. First thing is going to be a handle right back here at the rear that we are simply going to raise up on. This is going to raise the top of that compartment, and then as you'll notice right here on our sides of our engine, we're going to have these handles that are made here into this side shield, and that is because these are meant to be lifted up and off of the machine so that you can get those out of your way to do service to these different parts of the machine. We can do that here on both sides to get everything good and opened up, or we can see everything with the machine that we need to see. So starting over here on your left hand side, first thing that we're going to have down here down in the frame is going to be our battery. Nice position there where it is good and covered and kept from the weather. Once we move up from the battery, we are going to see one fuel filter located here, and then right above that we are going to have a hydraulic filter. Moving over to the left, we have our hydraulic reservoir here with the sight gauge over on the side. Moving up from that, we are going to have our engine oil fill right here, and with the dipstick right to the left of it. Now moving back, right here on the center and in top of the engine is going to be our air filter housing. Right in front of that will be our coolant reservoir here. Moving over to the right of that, over on the right hand side of the engine, is going to be our fuel fill. So this is going to have that green diesel cap right here on top that is going to be tethered so that you cannot lose that cap. And moving over here on the right hand side, we are going to be able to see such things as our secondary fuel filter. You'll also be able to see your alternator here, your turbo right up here, and then this large metal filter here. This is going to be our DPF filter, or our diesel particulate filter. This is what keeps us from having that diesel exhaust fluid. So by having this system in place, this is what's going to help clean that exhaust without having to use DEF. Now, like I said before, this engine is going to have a peak horsepower of 74, and this is a Yanmar engine that's in this machine. Now, I know what you may be thinking, why in the world is Deere using a Yanmar engine? But Deere has used Yanmar engines for years and years on a lot of their machines, and they have proven time and time again to be a great engine option for these smaller horsepower machines. Now down in the frame, once again, very well protected, is going to be your fuel tank. This is going to be a 21-gallon fuel tank on this machine to make sure that you have enough fuel to do all those things that you need to do with this machine. Now, a couple other things to note about the rear of the machine before we move around here to the side is that you are going to have tie down and chain down points on either side here at the rear. Then you're also going to have these 3 holes here on the back right behind the track, and these are going to be the holes that are used to mount those counterweights that can go on this machine. Now, as we know, these machines are going to be used for lifting and moving. That's going to be their main job, and digging. So extra counterweight on these machines a lot of times is a must for most operators. So just know that you do have the place to put those on. Now, a little bit about the track system here. What you're going to have is a single drive gear here on each side that runs this track, along with 2 large idlers and 4 smaller idlers or rollers here on the bottom. This is going to make up your track system. Now, this is going to be adjustable as far as the tension on these tracks, and this is something that you do need to check. So right behind this center plate here is going to be a grease zerk, and we simply need to add grease to this to add tension to this system. Now, if you want to see how this is done in detail, I have done a full video on this, and I'll make sure to leave a link to that down in the description below. But this track system is designed with the way that it is made to allow material to fall off either to the outside or to the inside to make sure that you don't have that buildup. And you are going to have 2 different track options on these machines as well. Here we have the zigzag bar styles, and then you can also get an H-block style that looks like this, and that is going to make up your track system on this 325G. Now, while we've got this up in the air, let's talk about the height that this is going to raise. So to the top of the hinge pin there, which is going to be your bottom pin here, it is going to be 10 foot 6 inches. So that is how much reach you would have if you were trying to get something with some pallet forks. Then once you dump that bucket down, you're going to lose close to 3 feet, as that is going to be close to the length of that bucket going out. So keep that in mind. Now, also while this is up, this is going to be a good point to talk about grease points. Now, I have a video going over all of the grease points on one of these machines, but just keep in mind that on each side, you are going to have 1, 2, 3 up on the bucket on each side, so that makes 6. And then moving back, you are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that makes 6 and 6 is 12, which makes for a total of 18 grease points just on your boom and bucket. And make sure that you are taking care of those as you use this machine. All right, so now we'll go ahead and hop back in the machine, go over a few of the controls while I lower this bucket back down, and then we will do a full cab overview while we're inside. So to start things out, we talked about we do have to lower our lap belt, get that down into place. Then next, what we're going to do is reach up here in our control panel, hit our on button. That's going to turn the machine on, and then we're going to simply hold this button down to start the machine up. And once we've done that, the next thing we need to do is release our parking brake, which is also going to release our hydraulic brake here. And now we are going to be able to drive the machine. Now, first thing I need to do is go ahead and raise up my bucket. So in this machine, what you're going to have are the ISO joysticks. This is going to be set in the ISO pattern. So our right-hand joystick is going to be for our boom and bucket, and our left-hand joystick is going to be for our driving controls. So we are going to raise up on our boom. I'm going to reach back, undo that locking pin that I had set before. Then I can simply raise back down my bucket here, or lower that bucket back down rather. And then while I'm here, what I can do is I can either curl the bucket by going inward, or I can dump the bucket by going outward. And right there is going to be all of my bucket controls right there on that right hand joystick. Now, if I want to drive the machine, I'm going to do everything here with my left hand joystick. So if I want to go in reverse, I'm going to pull backward on that joystick. If I want to go forward, I'm going to push forward on that joystick. To the left will obviously turn me to the left, and over to the right will turn me to the right. All right, so now let's take a quick look at what all is in the cab of this machine. We're gonna start over here on the left-hand side. First thing that we're gonna have is going to be a radio in this machine. Now, keep in mind, there are going to be different packages of these machines, and you may not have a radio depending on your package, so make sure that you're talking to your salesman about that whenever you go to ordering this. Then up here is going to be our control panel. This is going to show us multiple different points of information. We're going to have a computer screen here where we can dial through different things. We have a menu that we can go through with lots of different options to be able to dial through here on the menu. Then we're also going to have our fuel gauge up here and our temperature gauge as well. Then right below that, we are going to have our backup camera here. Moving to our door, we're gonna have our 2 orange emergency release handles. Now, if you don't know exactly how these work, I have a video showing how to remove these and how to reinstall them. I'll make sure to leave that down in the link in the description below. Then right here on the door, we are going to have our windshield wiper kit. So right here, we'll turn it on. If we hold it down, that is going to administer the fluid just like that. And then we could simply turn this back off. Now, moving up here right in the middle of the machine, we are going to have that backup camera, and we are going to have the opening in the roof so that we can see what we're doing with our loader. Once we're looking down and looking up, we have good visibility all the way around this machine. You'll also notice that on the windows, we do have that metal gate on the outside to help from that debris breaking out these windows whenever we're working in those harsh conditions. Now, moving up to our right hand side, we're gonna have a lot of different controls up here. The first one is going to be our electric quick attach button. This is what is going to unlock or lock our quick attach, which is going to be our piece that holds on whatever implement we have on. Right now we've got that bucket on, but we can simply hit a switch right here to unlock that and take that bucket off. Then we're going to have our lights button right next to that. Then we're going to have an auxiliary in and out next to that. Then we're going to have our fan reversing switch right here. Now, this is another one of those things that I have a completely separate video on, so if you want to see more about the reversing fan, make sure to check those links down in the description below. Moving right next to that is going to be our high flow hydraulics button. Now, this is one that we are going to be able to either initiate or turn off, so this machine can be in either standard or high flow depending on what the situation is. Now, the difference there is going to be the output on our front couplers, which we'll go over here in a minute, but that input is going to change from 21 gallons per minute in standard flow all the way up to 32 gallons per minute in high flow. Moving over next to that is going to be our air conditioner switch along with our 2 dials to regulate the temperature and fan speed. Moving down from that is going to be our engine speed dial here. Now, not only do we have this dial, but we're also going to have a pedal down here on the right hand side where we can adjust that engine speed right here at the pedal, or we can adjust it right up here with the dial. Just like so. Now, here's going to be our soft touch panel here. This is going to have a lot of different features and functions to it. I have a whole video going over the different features and functions of this control. I'll also leave those down in the description below. But basically what we're going to have is our start button, our stop button, our parking brake, hydraulic brake. We have our sensitivity for our levers. We're going to have our speed change here. This is going to be the change in our pattern for our joysticks. This is going to be our bucket sensitivity. This is going to be our ride control, and this is going to be our self-leveling bucket. Now, moving down, looking a little bit closer into our joysticks, we are going to have multiple buttons here on the joystick on the right-hand side. This one here is going to be our rocker switch for those auxiliary hydraulics. Then we're going to have 2 separate auxiliaries here that are going to be for our electrical connections, which are outside with our hydraulic couplers as well. Then over here on our left-hand joystick, we're going to have 4 buttons. These are going to be, top left is going to be our horn. Then we are going to have our different auxiliary buttons right here with these 3. And then on the back side of each one of these is going to be a trigger. Now on the left-hand joystick here, this trigger is going to take us back and forth between low speed and high speed. So right now we are in low speed. We have nothing lit up here on our display panel. If I were to go ahead and pull that trigger one time, now what you're going to see is a rabbit up there in the right-hand corner of that display panel, which is putting this into high speed. Now over on our right-hand side, we have a trigger as well, and this is going to switch us back and forth between ride control and our self-leveling bucket. So if we have these features enabled, whenever I pull that trigger, you'll see that turn on. If I have both enabled, now whenever I pull that trigger, that is going to switch back and forth between ride control and self-leveling. And if I want to turn those back off, hit those buttons and that turns those off. Now, if you are ever in need of knowing what exactly these buttons do, good thing is this machine is labeled to the max. So if we're looking up in our right hand control center, right over here to the right, we're going to have a panel here that tells us just exactly what each one of those buttons do. If we're looking at our joysticks here, we are going to have labeling over here on each side that tells us just exactly what each one of these joysticks do. So never fear when you're in one of these machines. You are going to have the instructions right there at your fingertips. Now, a couple other things that you're going to have in this cab is you are going to have windows that open up right here with these latches. You can open up your window here at the back. You can open up your window here at the front. And then you're also going to have a safety feature built in here at the rear, where we can simply pull down on this tab, push out on this back window, and be able to exit the machine through the back if we happen to not be able to get out through our emergency exit here in the front. Once again, I have a video on doing this as well. I'll make sure to drop that down in the links in the description below. Now, moving here to the front of the machine, some of the things to note is that you are going to have plenty of safe places to step whenever getting into this machine. So you're gonna have grips most of the time on whatever attachment you have on the machine, as well as grips leading into here on the quick attach, and then 2 on the front before we even get to the door. You're also gonna have multiple handles here that you can grab onto to help yourself get into the machine. So getting into these is going to be a safe process. Now, as far as the rest of the front goes, the main portion that we're looking at is going to be right here, our auxiliary couplers. So what you're going to have is an inlet and outlet, and then also in the middle here, you're going to have a case drain. Now, the case drain is going to be a smaller coupler that is used in instances where we're using attachments that are going to have fluid that may need to make its way back to the machine because it's getting too hot in that attachment that you're running, such as maybe a mulcher or a rotary cutter, whatever those things are. You do have this here. Now, with these machines being either high flow or standard, maybe you have one that's just standard, or maybe you have one that'll switch back and forth, just know you're going to have these same couplers no matter if you're just standard or if you have both. Now, right below that, we were talking about those auxiliary electric buttons that are inside the cab. You're going to have 2 different hookups here also for those different attachments, because different manufacturers are going to have different hookups that require different setups. So you have these 2 different electrical outlets here to make sure that you can fit whatever those attachments are that you're looking to put on the front of this machine. Now, last but not least, let's talk a little bit about dimensions, warranty, and price. So dimensions on this, let's talk about height first. So to the top of the cab, we're going to be 6 foot 9 inches. Lengthwise, without the bucket, we're looking at 9 foot 4 inches. If we add the shortest bucket on, we're going to be at 11 foot 4 inches. And then width-wise, with the standard tracks, you're going to be right at 6 foot, and with the larger tracks, you're going to be at 6 foot 3 inches. So if you're looking at one of these, you're looking at storing this, now you've got a good idea of what kind of space you're going to need to get this in that storage container, in that shed, wherever you're putting this machine. Now, as far as warranty goes, you're going to have a standard basic warranty of 2-year, 2,000 hour, whichever comes first. And if you would like to add additional warranty to this machine, you can do that. Just make sure to talk to your dealer whenever you're going in to buy one of these machines. Now, whenever we are talking about list price on one of these machines on John Deere's website, what you're going to see is a starting base list price of around $83,000. But keep in mind that that is going to be for a base package machine. That's also going to be without any extras like implements on the front or anything extra feature-wise on the machine. So whenever you are looking into these, if you want one spec'd out exactly like what you saw here, make sure that you're talking to that salesman, getting this thing outfitted exactly how you want it. And then while you're in there getting that spec'd out, make sure that you ask about any type of incentive programs there might be, any type of discounts that might be out there for you, so you can make sure to get that right price. And then also ask about those financing options, so you can make sure that if paying full price out of pocket's not for you, that you're getting that right payment to fit your budget. So guys, I hope this video helped you out. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, we just ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also guys, if you're needing any John Deere parts at all, make sure to check us out at 247parts.com. And as always guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, make sure to check out this cool video and this one. Buy your parts right up here and subscribe right here.